Recently I discussed the revelation that it would cost about £732 or 2.5 years to unlock all the content for all the characters in For Honor, and what this told us about the real issue of microtransactions in full-price AAA games, which is something I've touched on before many times, that, you know, people are going to be tempted to make the unlocking it without paying system grindy in order to encourage you to cough up real cash. And of course, all of this was thanks to the calculations from Bystander 007. Now, this caused quite the controversy, quite the stir, if you will. And now we've had a bit of a response from Ubisoft in the Warrior's Den livestream, which, to be honest, has done very little other than pour gasoline on an already raging fire. And these comments come from game director Damien Kiken, or Keekan, not actually sure on the pronunciation there, and he discussed some questions in a Q&A stream. There's going to be a link below. You want to skip to about 22 minutes or so to hear his comments, but of course I am going to go through what he had to say as well as my opinions on it. So, he says, quote, "We never really had an intention for you to unlock everything in the game. For us, that doesn't really make any sense. We applied RPG mechanics on top of the fighting game in a PvP environment. Let's say, in World of Warcraft, you would never try to unlock everything for all the characters, same thing in a MOBA." And apparently, Ubisoft made the deliberate design decision to design the progression around the fact that most players are going to be sticking to one or two heroes, maybe three, and he insisted that their data on actual real players and what they actually do in-game has backed this up. And he said, quote, "We forecasted that most players would play 1 to 3 characters, and that's what we see today in our game. Most players focus on one character, one hero, and others go up to 2 or 3. All the design are based around that." Now, let's just assume for a second that all this is true. According to him, it would take a few weeks to unlock everything in the game. For that, and after that, you know, you start to save up, and after you've got all your basic gear and that, you start to save up for your more expensive steel costing outfits and so on. Now, of course, one of the issues is that every unlockable in this game is locked behind steel, which, yes, you can get by just playing the game, but clearly that drop rate or gain rate, however you want to phrase it, is far too low given the amount of time it would take you to unlock everything, even just for a small group of characters. And, well, his response to this wasn't particularly brilliant either, in all honesty. He said, quote, "Yes, those items are harder to access, but at least everything is grindable, which we think is a good idea." And, you know, he's not wrong in the fact that, yes, if you have a real money system in any game, there has to be a way, at least in my opinion, to unlock things just by play. But, you know, this is a AAA full-price $60 game, and he's comparing it to MOBAs, which are generally free-to-play, and this is a very free-to-play attitude that they're applying to a game that is pretty damn expensive. You know, some people who bought the collector's editions and the season pass and all this other stuff have paid about $100 for this game, and then they're being asked to cough up more or be prepared to grind the shit out of the game. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with, you know, working towards unlocks. That can be quite satisfying, but when it feels grindy, you know, when it feels like a chore, like taking out the rubbish rather than a game that you actually enjoy playing, then, you know, it becomes an issue. And he did say a few other things, but again, I'm not going to go through all of them here. You can look at the video in the description below, as I already said. But the main thing is that he closed his argument by saying that the money made with the microtransactions go towards, you know, running the live team, which is working on new maps and heroes. And okay, that's all great and all, but, you know, this is a full price game with DLC, with season passes already. And my question is, okay, why is some of that money not going towards the game? If this is a game without DLC, similar to Overwatch, for example, then maybe you can make that argument. You know, that is something I have said in Blizzard's defense with Overwatch. Like, as much as I really dislike microtransactions in full-price games, Overwatch is not really going to have any DLC unless it's going to be a massive, like, story expansion or something to that effect. Because, you know, the type of game it is. You know, For Honor, it does have DLC. It does have a season pass. And as I said, his argument has not gone down particularly well. It has been rather predictably torn to shreds by the community. As I said, the fact that he compared the game to a MOBA, which are typically free to play, has not gone down well. And obviously there's the issue that a lot of the gear is obtained in blind loot boxes or randomly gained upon completing a match. And, well, The suggestion that you only play 1 or 2 heroes in a game you spent full price on has definitely ruffled some feathers, and while it's fair to say that you're not going to be a pro at every single character in a game, you know, that's silly, most people will have their favourites that they tend to go with, but I would argue that, you know, most people are going to have a healthy selection of heroes that they choose to play, and they change that particular choice based upon what happens in the map. You know, to make the Overwatch comparison again, you know, I have my mains, as does everybody, but I also have a few backup characters that, hey, we need, you know, a tank that isn't D.Va or Winston, I can be Roadhog, or, hey, we need this type of character, I can, you know, fall back on my backup characters. I wouldn't just play 1 or 2 characters in that game, for example, and the same can be said for Honor, and basically, while it's okay to be like, yeah, I only really play one or 2 characters, to suggest that they've designed the game for you only to play 1 or 2 characters out of the rather impressive roster is basically saying, yeah, we designed the game for you to not actually play most of it, and it's that suggestion I think that's gone down rather poorly. For example, one of the comments on the For Honor subreddit is titled, quote, "Refund us 83% of what we paid for the game," and it reads, "According to the recent dev stream, we're in this place supposed to play 1 or 2 heroes with the current still game rate, so why the fuck did I pay you guys a full price $60 to access 2.5 of the characters? By that logic, you owe us back 10 to 12 of the $60 we paid, expecting to be able to enjoy the entire game. This is a AAA game, not some FTP MOBA rather, that can justify a rigged currency system designed to force us to spend real money." And to be honest, that's a fair point. Again, there's nothing wrong with having your favourite characters that you always rely upon. You know, we all have them. But to design it in a way that, yeah, you can't actually unlock everything for all the characters in a reasonable fashion because we deliberately designed it for you to really only be able to unlock everything for this small group, you can definitely see why this has gone down like a rather bitter pill for a lot of people. To be honest, this is a massive design flaw with the game, which is a real shame because from what I've seen, it's a really solid game. The mechanics are solid. It is essentially a fighting game, but in a very different way to what we're used to. And it's a shame to see all this bungled progression layered on top. And the slow design of it, the poor design of it, it can't really be defended. You know, if you have to have microtransactions, okay, I will argue against that, but, you know, it's unfortunately becoming more and more common, but at least make it enjoyable to play, at least make it enjoyable to unlock, at least make it so that the system isn't so rigged against the player that it would take 2.5 fucking years to unlock everything. Yes, I'm getting a bit irate, but this is just some really bizarrely out of touch comments here, to be honest. I mean, you can see the video for yourself and you can tell me that you think I'm wrong in the comments. Please feel free to let me know your thoughts. You know, you've had me ramble on for over 8 minutes now, so it's more than fair that I hear some feedback from you guys, and I'm going to call it there because I'm going to keep repeating myself. I think my opinion on this and microtransactions in general is well known at this point, but I would like to hear from you guys and see what you have to say. Thank you very much for watching, as always, and I'll see you next time.